Okay, so I just wanted to do a short video. Well, it probably won't be short, but just going through a few more mole calculations for those of you that need a little extra instruction. So you have the PDF on Schoology as well, so you can print this or write in it, or just write it. You don't even need it. You can just write on a piece of paper. That's fine. But I wanted you to kind of have access to it. So the first thing we need to do, and this picture doesn't have the mole map written down, so I'm going to just draw it out for you. Okay. So I know mole is in the center. That's kind of like my middle transition point. Okay, so I have atoms on one side. These are like my things, right? Particles, molecules, okay, formula units, anything that you see that's talking about like that group. Okay, and remember we have a special number. 6.022 times 10 to the 23rd. Right, that's how many atoms, particles, molecules, or things are in 1 mole. Okay, so it's just like if I said I have a dozen atoms, I'm in 12. If I have a mole of atoms, I have 6.022 times 10 to the 23rd, right? Which makes sense because atoms are teeny, teeny, tiny, and so it makes sense to have a lot of them in a group. When I'm converting between moles and grams, I'm going to use my molar mass, right? And this is just, let me see if I can draw this in here. I can just scroll up. This is just like if I look at carbon on the periodic table, right? I have this mass value down at the bottom. That's my molar mass, okay? That's just how much 1 mole of carbon will weigh. Just like if I had 1 dozen eggs and put it on a scale, I could get a weight. That's the same thing that I did with the mole. Okay, I took 1 mole of carbon, measured it, and it weighs 12.01 grams. Okay, so every element is going to have a different weight or a different mass, okay, per mole. So let's look at number 1 down here. And I'm not going to do all of these because I do want you to have some to practice, but I do have the key posted as well, so you can actually check your work when you get done, and you can see how I set it up and everything. So let's do number 1. So number 1 is asking me for how many moles, so that's what I'm looking for. Okay, and I'm always going to start with what I'm given, which is 1.20 times 10 to the 25th, and it's atoms, phosphorus. Okay. So now I'm just going to look at my map, and I need to say what side of my map am I on. So I'm going between atoms and moles. So I know I'm over here on this side. I'm going to take this path. So I know I'm going to need to use this number here, Avogadro's number, 6.02 times 10 to the 23rd. Okay, so now I just have to figure out where it's going to go in my calculation setup. So because I have atoms up here on the top, I know that I'm going to have atoms down here on the bottom. And remember, I'm converting it to moles, and it's always 1 mole on the top. Always 1 mole. Okay, so the number that goes in front of atoms is going to be the 6.022 times 10 to the 23rd. Okay. So now, in my calculator, all I have to do is divide. And one thing that you need to make sure you pay attention to is when you're dividing this Avogadro's number, 6.022 times 10 to the 23rd, you always want to use parentheses in your calculator. Otherwise, you'll end up with it following order of operations, and it'll multiply everything by 10 to the 23rd at the end, and you don't want that to happen. Okay, if you get something that says 10 to the 46th, that's wrong. Okay, you'll never have a 10 to the 46th answer. You probably set everything up right. You just typed it in the calculator wrong, maybe, and forgot your parentheses. Okay, so just don't forget those. So once you go through and type that in your calculator, and I'll do it too, you end up with 19.927. Okay, it keeps going. So remember, we need to make sure we're following our significant figure rules. So since I have 3 significant figures in my question, I'm going to have 3 significant figures in my answer. So the answer is 19.9, right? My atoms have canceled, so I'm left with moles of phosphorus. And if you need a review on significant figures, there's a video posted under the class information. Okay. Okay, I think that's all I'm going to do here. I'm going to let you try 2 and 3 on your own. Like I said, if you need help setting it up, the key is online. So now let's look at our moles to mass. Okay, so again, we have our mole map. Okay, I have my molar mass over here, and the 6.022 times 10 to the 23rd over here. Okay, so I'm going to look at my equation number 4 here. Okay, and I'm looking for number of moles. Okay, and I'm always going to start writing down what I'm given. 452 grams of argon. Okay, so if I'm going from grams to moles, I know I'm going to be on this side of my map. Okay, and so what I'm going to need in order to convert is I'm going to need this molar mass. So how do I find the molar mass, right, of argon? Well, I'm just going to look at my periodic table, and the number below argon, the mass number is 39.95. Okay, so that is my molar mass. That's my grams. So now I just have to figure out where I'm going to put it in the problem. So if I have grams on the top, I know I need grams on the bottom, which means moles going on the top. And so the 39.95 is going to go down there with the grams. Okay, remember, it's always a 1 in front of my mole. So now that I have my set up, now I'm just going to type it in my calculator. So I'm going to divide. And I end up with 11.314, right? But I need to look at my significant figures. So if there's 3 in my question, there needs to be 3 in my answer. So my answer is 11.3 moles. Okay, I do want to do number 5, because we're looking at this compound, which is different than what we just did when we were just looking at one element. So I want to show you how to do this one. Okay, I start setting it up the same way I set it up before. I'm always going to start with what I'm given. Okay, moles. And so remember, when I'm going from grams to moles, I'm going to need to use my molar mass. Okay, so the way that I do that for this compound is I'm just going to add up my molar mass for everything that I have. So I have hydrogens, carbons, and oxygens. So the mass for hydrogen is 1.01, but I have 4 hydrogens, because remember, that's a 1 and a 3. So I actually have 4 of those. So I have to add that in there 4 times. I have 2 carbons and 2 oxygens. Let me do it this way. Let me write the mass first like I did. So carbon is 12.01, so there's 2 of those. And then oxygen is 16, and there's 2 of those. So once I just add them all up, and I end up with 60.06 grams. So this is my molar mass, okay, of this whole substance. So all I did was just add it up. So now I just have to fill it into my calculation. So if I have moles on top, I know I'm going to have mole on the bottom. And that means that my grams are going to go on top. So when I multiply across, you end up with 0.0075676. Okay, so a long number. Remember my significant figures? There's 3 in the question, so there needs to be 3 in my problem, or my answer. So I'm going to stop right there. And it's 757 because the 7 is going to round that 6 up to a 7. Okay, your calculator may give it to you in scientific notation, and that is fine too. So either one of those could be the answer. And then I'm going to give you, remember lithium bromide, we just learned how to name those compounds, LIBR. Okay, I don't want that to be Y, that messes you up for number 6. All right. So then now we have these, the one where we're going to go all the way across, right? So if I have, let me scroll up here. So if I have grams, mole, and atoms, right? I do not have a way that I can go back and forth through here, right? I can't go directly from atoms to grams. So what I have to do is kind of take a trip around the road map, okay? Remember my 6.022 times 10 to the 23rd over here, and then my molar mass is over here, okay? We're going to skip number 9 because we are not talking about that, okay? So you have 2 here, so I'll do 1 and then I'll let you do 1. Okay, so I'm going to do number 10. Okay, so I'm looking for grams, right? And I'm starting with molecules. Ooh, it's going to be long. Okay, so I'm starting here with molecules. I get a different color, right? I'm starting here. So I have to go to moles before I can go to grams. So what number am I going to use to convert to moles, right? I have to use my 6.022 times 10 to the 23rd. Because I have molecules on top, I need molecules on bottom. Okay, and that's, like I said, equal to 1 mole. Okay, so now that I'm in moles, now I can come over here and go to grams. Remember, I'm going to use my molar mass. So I know that mole's up here, so I'm going to have mole on the bottom, so they cancel out, right? My molecules I've canceled, and that means grams is going to be on top. So how can I find my molar mass of N2, where there's 2 nitrogens? So nitrogen is 14, but there's 2 of them, so that equals 28 grams. Okay, so now I'm just going to multiply across and divide by the bottom. Don't forget, you need your parentheses around Avogadro's number down there on the bottom, because you don't want your calculator to do something crazy. Okay, and remember our question has 3 significant figures, so I want my answer to have 3 significant figures. So I get 4.65. Remember, I have grams because my molecules I've canceled, my moles have canceled, and I'm left with grams of nitrogen. Okay, and so now you should be able to Do number 11. Okay, remember, so we're looking for particles, right? You always want to start with what you're given. So you're given 1.43 grams, 3 grams. Okay, and this one actually gives you your molar mass. It tells you your molar mass is 233. Okay, so remember, if I'm going from grams to moles to atoms, right? I have to start with grams. I'm going to moles first, so I'm going to use my molar mass. Then I'm going to go to atoms. That's when I'll use the 6.022 times 10 to the 23rd. Okay, so see if you can set this up. I'll give you a hint. You're going to have another line here. Okay, and then see if you can solve it. And like I said, the key is posted online, so you can go through and see how I've got everything set up. Hopefully this gave you a little bit of help with just seeing a couple more examples worked out. This is just something that just takes practice as you're setting them up, just kind of getting used to following that mole map, like what comes next. And, don't forget, you're always trying to cancel out the units that you start with. So you always want whatever's on top, you want to make sure those same units are on the bottom. Okay, so just let me know if you have any questions. And like I said, I hope this helped.